been listening to a lot of Freedom Law School these days, and what I've learned from Paymon is that is a hell of a power tie he's wearing. I got to get myself a power tie like that. So that's one of the things I think is really the thing is, see, he thinks the IRS is violating people, and so he's his and then look, I'm not clear on all of his remedies because I don't know how he helps people, but I think he helps people. He gets LLCs and stuff like that. But it's basically, I think I heard this from somebody that said basically what you're setting up with Paymon is you're getting tax insurance. That if they tax you, they'll pay the tax from their big fund. And so if you want to pay in like 30% of your income for the tax insurance, Paymont is a good deal for you if you want to go that way. We agree with the IRS. We just don't choose to be federal citizens, and that's our process. So I don't have all of the the angst that he has about it, and then he still has hope. And you're part of the remedy is you're supposed to write to your congressman asking them to show you the law. If you take my class, you'll see that the law is the Constitution. That's what's empowering the federal government to do the income tax, the Constitution. So once you see Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, you'll know that. Um, don't see any stars on. There's no stars on passports. These are passport cards, and it's right underneath the. It's in the middle, right above all the data. There's asterisks about there. That's where the stars are. Anyway, that's it for this. Oh, we had still a hand. Let's see. There's a hand from. Yes, Gabriel, go ahead. Maybe I didn't put your hand down. Let me see. Where's your hand? There you are. Go ahead. You got the last question.
It's not a question. I just
Okay.
wanted to make a statement, which is
Oh
that I
no, we
really
don't we
appreciate
don't we don't take statements here.
just a brief statement, which
No,
is that
you
I
can
really
take your
appreciate
time.
your
I'm sorry.
process.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I really appreciate that your process, in particular, does not make race an aspect of
Mm.
any of this, because there's a lot of other people in this space, you could say, that
Really?
make it a big deal, you could say.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I find especially governmental conversations about skin color, I find it offensive. So I probably would go the other direction or make something fun of it. Because look, if the founders would say all men are created equal, they're endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, it puts everybody all in the same kind of category. And even though in the Declaration it says all men are created equal, it's men and women, it's mankind, that kind of thing. So and again, that's biblical. That the what Christ, that everyone has the same access to the Almighty in that regard. Skin color is a visible way of weak people making distinctions of others because they don't want to deal with anything of substance. So that's sad to me in some. But I appreciate you saying that. I have read. I usually will speak against that stuff when I see it show up legally. I find it for, especially if white people are saying that some good things coming to them because of that. And I just, again, I find it funky. Um, okay, Alma's, how did you get the last word on here? Okay, Alma's got the last word.
I always get the last word. Sorry. No, I'm just saying that it's a bigger game that they're playing when they get you pitted against each other for black, white, or male, female, or you know,
Mm,
Democrat, Republican. It's a bigger game.
yep,
It's a psyop.
it's great.
And the more that you do your own research and the more that you learn, like I can't tell you how much I've learned under
Mm,
you,
cool,
and how much it makes so much more sense now than it ever did.
cool,
And like I could figure stuff out now, right? So
awesome.
the
Well,
process is the process. You start to
mm,
focus your attention
mm,
on what's really going on, and you start to get it, and then you go, okay, this is how I get out of it.
cool.
This is how I stand in it.
Yeah, everything is up for your scrutiny. There's nothing that's not open for your scrutiny. You take your time. When someone wants to say something, oh, this is a thing, like we used to do with the Bible. It's like, I mean, I would deal with Christians that say, like, this is what they say. God helps those that help themselves. It's like chapter and verse, because I don't know that's in there. And so when someone asserts, some governmental thing, you just like, who made up that rule? Listen, there's an excellent read. It's on the website when you take the class, The End of All Evil. It's a real simple book. You can share it with your kids. Um, it's wonderful principles about freedom, and it's a lovely freedom primer. It's called End of All Evil. It looks like yeah, it looks like this. And then, again, this is a cover for it, but it's a real simple book, easy enough for kids to read and understand. Um, so that's by Jeremy Locke. So, all right. Well, we're going to wrap up tonight's call, and I suppose we'll be on for next week. I'm going to do an international call dealing with people from Australia, Canada, the UK, and dealing with income tax liability and all that. We're going to talk principles about that and see if they want to enroll some people into those processes. Um, and then what else was there? Yeah, so we'll probably do. We won't be broadcasting on YouTube when we do our calls um, next week, but we'll do the client call, and then we'll do the open call like this. I thank you all for being on. I appreciate you, and look forward to seeing you. We're stepping up our game and streamlining our work so we can help people in a better way. And so, all right. Thank you so much for being on. We'll talk to you guys later. All right. Take care. Bless you. Bye bye. Good night. Bluey. All right. There we go. So we're already live. Is that right? All right? Well, hey, sorry to ignore you while I was closing out our open call. We do that. It seems bright in here. I think this light doesn't usually go on. Let me turn that one off. Hold on. Let me just see if I can turn that one down. See if that helps wash some of the bright out, because these are pretty good cameras. That's a little better. Um, but yeah, so each week we'll do a client call at 7 o'clock on a Wednesday, and usually it goes an hour or so, and then that way clients can, ask questions and do things like that. Then afterwards we do that open call where people will come in and ask questions, and we try to be as frank with people and give them answers that are going to help them determine whether this is a process for them. And yeah, the pathway to freedom is responsibility. The more you take on the responsibility for yourself, your care, your economy, things like that, the freer you'll be. I remember talking to people about their business and whether how well it's doing these days and all that. I always say um, we don't participate in the economy. Okay, that's all. Yeah. So see, the Creator, God will always bless the righteous, and so you can just have that mindset that you're doing your own thing, you're creating your own reality. Listen, every time you are giving and creating value for someone else, anyone else, it's a way to people will pay for you to add value to their life, and in whatever category that may be. I'll give you an example that I just think is extraordinary. I think it was on Facebook or maybe it was YouTube. I don't remember. But this guy is taking these high end sneakers, um, and he was just asking people for them. He says, "Can I do this up?" And he'd make arrangements that he can get the sneakers. And I think what he did was he would buy another pair, so in case they didn't like it, he could give them another pair. But he would do up all the he would just do amazing detail painting of the shoes, and he figures out how to deal with the leather and all that. Makes the shoe, and it's still a brand that they like, makes it one of a kind. And so now he was doing that, and he had his videos, and people were watching. I was sending them all. I was like, this guy's doing this craft like nobody else. And then he would start reaching out to these stars, and uh, and then he would do that for them and gift them this, um, because they liked them. And these stars were like, just they were just overwhelmed by the beauty of what he was doing. And he just created this niche he was doing. I guarantee you that he would have people reaching out to him say, I'd like a pair like that too. Can you do this? And he would ask questions about them and things they liked and stuff. And so I guess in his questionnaire, when he's learning about the people, he could add those details in this. I mean, this is creating value for people. They like it. And you can do that in any category of life that you love and that you want to be a part of. So, and then add that you can have a website, i.e., Facebook or YouTube or whatever, that you can broadcast to the world at little to no money. And then you have internet, so you have access to the entire planet to where you don't even have to touch product. You can sell product that you list. They'll give you the money. You can buy it, and then they'll drop ship it over here. Never even handle the product, mark it up, make it available. You're making money. You don't even touch the product. It's just amazing. I mean, imagine you come up with your website, you know, Frogs Universe, and you sell everything that's made of frogs, that's whatever it is. And so every time you find out where you can buy all your stuff from, now you don't even have to buy it all. Now you may have some things that you want to buy, but the bottom line is maybe that's the unique thing you do is sell everything frogs. And so there, again, another niche. So it's just it's just amazing if you don't limit yourself about what you want to come up with and create value for people, you can make a living with that. And of course, with our clients are unemployable because our clients, they do their own businesses and things like that. We feel that the best thing that you can do is really the most precious asset that you own or have is your time. And so you should always be doing things that save you, not save you time, because you're always spending your time, is so that you can use your time to live your life. So rather than spend your time to make money, get things or make things that you can sell that again and again or whatever that make you money. That way you can just enjoy your life while money is being made over here. That's how wealthy people, they take their capital and they get their capital to work for them like that. And whether you own the company, you might not, and it's okay if you own a company and you're the operator, and that's good, but it's not best. If someone else was running it and you just owned it, that's best. You're using very little time, maybe just to manage it on some level. Again, this is how different people think about wealth and all that. But again, we want you to be pursuing your happiness, you know, as opposed to be working for someone else's vision in like a corporate thing or whoever invented the thing where you're working. You know, they're um, they're down in Miami enjoying the beach. I was thinking, someone that I knew. I mean, it's just kind of one of those quirks. Um, but I had a client, a window cleaning client years ago that had a house, and and they had plenty of money because this brother was the inventor of the cable modem. So he had a couple bucks, so it's astonishing. Like, imagine if you get a piece of every cable modem on the planet. That's just amazing. But that's, again, he's creating this value. And I think that's, I would have never known that, but that's the reality. He's the father of the cable modem. So, and who knows where the technology will go from there. But again, and your living doesn't have to reach the whole world. It just has to do something that brings the blessing to you for how you want to live, right? So anyway, I digress in the sense of, when we're inviting people out of, the filing and paying, we want them to be free and we want them to be abundant. And how you manage your money and how you deal with money is an important thing to learn. I'm endeavoring to learn those same skills as I grow up in what I do, um, trying to free up my time and have this work in a way that's a blessing to people and that frees up my time as well. So I'm learning the same lessons everybody else has to learn on this journey of prosperity, and certainly not sending the income tax to the central bankers. I just want to mention how many people talk about withholding their um, income tax because they don't like what the government's doing. Well, you can look up during the Reagan administration. There was a man that had done a study on waste, government waste. His last name was Grace. He created the Grace Commission, in which they studied waste, government waste, and he found that not one nickel of the income tax is used to do or run anything in the government. That it is used, it's taken up and used for interest payments and transfer payments on the debt. So you're working for the central bankers. Well, I wonder whose families are the central banker families, like the Federal Reserve, or like the the banks that are bigger than even the Federal Reserve. You know, the International Monetary Fund, and some of those other families that create banking. And to be honest with you, when you really think about what, and I see that question come up on Facebook where people will say something like, if there was one thing that you could get rid of, or that, what's the one thing that's the scourge of the earth, or whatever the deal is, you know, um, what would that be? Well, I have a tough, close one. One is, I always say that certainly central bankers, banking like the way they do fiat currency and all, I have to say that that affects everybody everywhere on the planet. That's a bad thing. And I would say that when you're dealing with government, is the fact that governments can create corporations is bad, and that they can borrow money is really bad. Those two things alone are part of what's dreadful. So this, oh, thank you. This, I'll remind people the taxes are due today. Yeah, that's what April 15th is all about. So how many of you are out there, um, watching this or whatever, and have to get down to the post office to stamp your return, but before midnight? And is there a post office open near you up till midnight? I remember demonstrating in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, in front of the post office, which happened to be in front of the federal building that had the IRS in it. And I'd be out there all the way up till midnight, till the post office closed. Then I'd be ready for a beer after being outside all day long. And look, it's in April. Sometimes April's pretty chilly uh, in New Hampshire. But but yeah, so I'd be there early in the morning, and there'd be a lot of business. I remember there was a time when I remember when I first was going to demonstrate. I actually reached out to the city or the town, the city of Portsmouth is um, attorney, and I said, "Do I need any kind of a permit or anything to demonstrate?" He said, "No, as long as you stay on the sidewalk, you can demonstrate. There's no permit needed or anything like that." And uh, and so that was cool. So I knew to stay on the sidewalk. So when I was in front of the federal building, I was walking up and down, and the security guard guy came out and he says, "You can't be doing this here." I go, "Oh yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "No, no, we're gonna call the cops." I'm like, "Okay, just by all means, go for it. Do what you got to do." So again, they never called the cops. Then he came out and was asking for our literature, so we gave him, loaded him up with all kinds of literature. They probably wanted it up, and the IRS probably was looking out the window. But I'd be out there handing out information, um, and handing out constitutions, both state and federal. Just inviting people to make the choice to stop filing. Okay. And this journey that we're on is not a fight. You're not squaring off with the IRS. Matter of fact, we agree with the IRS. We know who they tax and regulate in that regard. All U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live, and resident aliens. And so that's who it says in the instructions. Read, these rules apply to, and they tell you, all U.S. citizens, regardless of where they live. Worldwide, federal citizens. And how do we define U.S. citizenship? The State Department and the IRS defines U.S. citizenship by the 14th Amendment. So, do you claim to be 14th Amendment citizen? You might not. That's a statutory citizen. That's a citizen created by a legislature. Okay? So, citizenship in the you know citizenship in the states is based upon habitation and domicile. That's not residency. It's habitation and domicile. As the courts will define it as that place you intend to return to. So you can travel the world 35 years and eventually end up back where you started. If you were in the military, they would pay you to come back to where you started, and that's habitation and domicile. Even though you're residing all over the planet, you only have one habitation domicile. Usually, that's the place where you would have your driver's license, or that you would vote, or that you would be on a jury. Those are all based for habitation domicile, not residency. Okay. And even when you're talking about in college kids, they were getting college kids to vote in a particular state where they were in college. And the courts were conflating habitation, domicile, and residency like it was the same thing, and it was not. It was well known whether a student had the right to vote. Every student that was paying the foreign tuition, meaning they were out of state, they had an other driver's license. If they were paying out of state, that meant they couldn't vote. If they were living in the state, and this is where their habitation domicile was, they had a driver's license from the state, if you would, then this is where they would vote and not the other way around. That was an easy way, but the courts were favoring the conflating of those terms. So anyway, you know what I don't have on here? I didn't have. I was going to see. This is going to help me. I'm going to go ahead and look on my. I'm going to go on YouTube. Let me see so that I can see how many people are. Let me see how I do that. Let me see if I can do. Um, oh yeah, let's see. I think. Let's see if I can see how. Oh, we are live, right? Okay, there we go. All right. All right. Oh, did I take off that? I did. There we go. Let's see if I can. Um, we'll see if I can put this up. These are always challenging. There we go. Now I'll just put this in my stand here. There we go. So what do we got? We got 6 people on there tonight. That's awesome. I'm glad you're on. By the way, in this live broadcast, if you have questions, tax-related questions, or even, on some level, freedom-related questions, then by all means, I'll be glad to answer the best I can, and maybe point you to some source or what have you, and then that we'll keep an eye on it there so I can see if you have any questions. All right. Um, there are a number of people out there that are doing, that are not filing, and you get to check out and see if how it resonates and what they recommend helps you. We have things that are very much in common. We recognize that that um, if you're filing and signing the 1040 form, you're swearing under penalty of perjury it's true, correct, and complete. And so that's one of those things. So usually if you're filing, then the IRS can scrutinize, audit, and do what they want with you in that regard. And if you look at statistics, go that even someone who's non-filing and doing nothing, have no remedy, just not filing, those people are less likely to be bothered by the IRS, or that the IRS would pursue them. It's less likely than those that have a 1040 and do the return. That's just the statistics. And it's interesting, it's the Freedom Law School that actually utilizes and says that those statistics are a huge part of the decision not to file, because with so many millions of people who aren't filing, and there are only like, I don't know the number exactly, like 38 or 32 judges, they would have to be doing so many of these every day. It's just impossible. So, and again, but I wouldn't use that or rely upon that to determine whether you're going to file or not, because the bottom line is there's computers and algorithms, like AI is going to move in that direction, and they're going to pursue um, they may be pursuing you depending on how you have your finances set up. So that doesn't bring me a lot of comfort. This is a peaceful process. We're doing some of this work with the State Department. When we deal with citizenship in the passport process. So that's part of our beginning place for eliminating your income tax liability. Of course, if you're employed, then this is it's not ready. This is not for you because you need to be responsible for your own taxes and not have somebody already withholding even before you owe it. And so that's not a good thing. Um, but anyway, that's how that plays out. So you get to look and check and see if those remedies that they're offering, whether that resonates with you, whether that's a peaceful process or whether it's a fight or a stand. And these guys, I've known them for years. Some of them, like Dave Champion and Paymont from Freedom Law School. Um, they're very kind and great guys in that way. Um, and even like Joe Bannister, who's a former IRS agent, he's just a dear man and has been doing this for a number of years. I'm not sure what he does to help people file. I think he says that he doesn't believe there's a law that requires most people to file and pay. And so I find that astonishing because when I point to the law that requires people to file and pay, I look at Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, where the federal government has exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever. That would include the income tax. That's a privilege. Okay, they're taxing what the privilege of being a federal citizen. The welfare that it brings, other things like that. And so that's the Constitution. That's what it says. And the law is, Title 26, the tax code. There you go. And it's for U.S. federal citizens and resident aliens. U.S. citizens. Okay, so there you go. So earlier, I guess in some of our first hours, I was talking about the book, The Law That Never Was by Bill Benson, and then those two books by Lynn Meredith. And I was going to say, I just wanted to mention that if you want to read one of the best reads on state citizenship, okay, that's out there, I'm truly, as far as I've seen, bar none, is Paul Mitchell's The Federal Zone. And you can go to Supreme Law, I believe it's .org or .com. I'm not sure which one it is. It might be both. But anyway, and you can read a copy of it right on the site. And I think you can order I don't know if he's doing this anymore, but you could order a hard copy for him. There's a donation that he takes for that. But that's one of the best reads for um, for income tax and not income tax per se, the state citizen and federal government's limitations. I'm just going to try to see if. All right, so, um, but anyway, that's some of that. So if there's any questions that you may have, again, I'll be glad to field those in the comments. Well, let me ask you this: if what would you say is the thing that holds you back the most with respect to stopping filing or determining if you have the liability? And I would say it like that, is eliminating your income tax liability, not with that this is about paying taxes or not paying taxes. Okay, we're coming at this in not having the liability because we recognize that the IRS does tax U.S. citizens and resident aliens. So we recognize that as in their jurisdiction. So so we're not talking about any kind of tax resistance or even a tax rebellion or any of those things. What's the term we're using now or that they have out there? We're doing tax. The tax strike. It's not that. So rather than strike for a certain amount of time, we're on strike and then we're off strike after they produce all the information we want. Um, would you start paying again? Or how would it be if you were like, I'm done with the swamp. I'm leaving the swamp. It doesn't look like that guy in the White House is going to drain the swamp because it looks like the swamp captured him. But you can walk out of the swamp without having to wait for them to figure out whether they're going to be moral or not. So that's what's playing out there. So yeah, so anyway, so I don't see any. It looks like seven are watching now. That's cool. Let me see. I can't see that. That's cool. So so what else? Did we have any questions that came in? There were people in different countries were asking about um, dealing with income tax in their own country. That would be like Australia, Canada, and the UK. Well, let me just tell you a little something about Australia, Canada, and the UK. Those are not countries. Those are also unions. Okay. The United Kingdom, like the United States or, or the European Union. Those are all some kind of a union. Okay. They're made up of states, if you will. So, and of course, the crown is there. But remember, England is a country, Scotland's a country, Ireland's a country, and they're all in the UK. So don't confuse the union over the state or the country. Okay, that's your nationality. Um, the and even in Australia, I might not be remember. There's like 8 states or something like that in Australia. They created their central government. They're the ones that compel that central government to be subject to them. Canada is not a country; it's a union. Quebec, where Quebec City is, that's a country. They don't like the rest of Canada either. And then there was another state in Canada or territory that was looking to um, not be part of Canada. It's amazing. People vote to or ask permission to be brought into a union. You can just vote to leave. It's like that. And in America, with that Civil War, some people will believe that now we're going to force the union, and that's not the way relationships work, where we force them, you know. Okay, here we have some questions. I love it. Okay, so Freddie quotes. Let's see if he says, "I've processed." I'm sorry. Processed my paperwork for state citizen. I authorized my certificate of birth, both in-state and federal level. Applied for passport without social, and received my 5-star passport. Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, I the passport, the stars are on the card. There's no 5-star passport. I don't know what you're looking at in that regard, but that's a nice thing. So when you said you process your passport without a social, so you're saying the State Department went ahead and received. Um, did you provide the Social Security number in any other context, or was that there? And authenticated your birth certificate, both in state and federal level. That apostille is just it authenticates the certificate is valid. But again, some people they make up stuff about that, and the State Department will see. You can have apostilled birth certificate apostilled in your state and things like that, or the federal government will apostille them. That's so that you can use those documents in the countries that are part of the Hague Convention. That's what the apostille stands for. So that's cool. Well, I'm glad you had that stuff done. That's perfect. I would. Did you have an explanatory statement with it? Because that'll be important. And did they keep that in the record and have you gotten those documents certified so that you can use them at some time? Maybe that'll be something you might need. Let's see. Then you went and say you recently received a letter from IRS. Um, IRS asking me to file for 2024. Okay, question for you. How long? Well, again, you don't have to answer these things. This is a public venue, so if you don't want to answer any questions, that's cool. But there's no way for me to really respond, um, if I don't have certain information. But so I'll just say, when was the last time you filed? Are you employed? Do you work for yourself? Do you have a corporation? Do you have a tax ID number associated with it? All those are ways that would bring you into federal jurisdiction, creating a tax liability for yourself. So if you're doing some of those things, then that could be some of the problem with respect to IRS. When did the swamp form? oh, I don't know, it was probably hot after the Constitution was signed. I assert that the Constitution, in its original, when James Madison was putting it together and he was compelling George Washington to sign off on it, I think even then, when they wrote Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, was a breakdown and a problem. So it's been a long time. The federal government's been evil for a long time. So um, almost from the beginning, and so that's one of those things. Let me see. Um, Freddie's got you got a lot of questions. Did I not file the paperwork correctly? Is there something I can send them in response? And again, Freddie, if it's Freddie, okay, it's really difficult for me. First of all, I don't know who you are. I don't know that. I mean, we don't serve federal citizens, so I don't know if that's what you have there. So it's very difficult for me to, strike an opinion with little information because I would have a lot of questions. Then it would require you to disclose things that you might not want to disclose on YouTube here. So if you'd like to talk, I'd be glad to talk with you. You can email me at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and then just say that you would like to talk with me and include your contact information and I'll reach out and give you a call. And then we can chit chat about some of that stuff. I can ask you some questions that might open up some possibilities for you. Um, then it says, um, then it says they sent me a letter after I filed the passport paperwork asking for my social. Oh, so when they asked for the social, did you provide your social then? Because we never put the social security number on the application. We've done thousands and thousands of them. We always provide the social on our explanatory statement, right on page 1, nice big red letters. And we have a lot of things that we say about the social security number. So we provide the social security number, but it's in our explanatory statement so that we can declare what we believe about it in that regard. So I did the explanatory statement. Okay, and it says I did send you an email this week. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'll look out if I have your contact information. I'll look it up. I'll look it up tonight and all that. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make a call tonight, but that's be glad to. This is a weird way to have a conversation, isn't it? You know, you're typing on into the chat, and I don't really get to see you or hear you, so that's kind of odd. Um, but anyway, this is the technology. It's a good thing we're not on the moon. We probably could just talk to each other easily because they're on the moon. So, but we're just having fun. I know, but this isn't like really good. This is streaming. This is considered streaming. Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm old school. I'm not new school. So, yeah, it's always nicer to hear people. Then that way you can see how they're interacting and stuff. So that's kind of wild. All right. So all right. So um, yeah, I'm looking forward to 4 weeks later. You got the card in the mail. That's great. Yeah, they send those. Um, separately. The card follows the passport. They usually mail them in different paperwork and all that. So that's kind of cool. Well, I'm glad you had that success. I guess at some point, I mean, I would love to see, what you wrote to the State Department and to ask you questions about that. We've done that for a number of people that have done different processes. I can't really tell whether they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish. I would have to read what you wrote and see, and then ask you, do you feel that, it served or met your need, or you feel like it accomplishment. It isn't about the passport, and it's not a state citizen passport. It's a process that's a state citizen. The passport's a federal passport. So that's sometimes people think that they're going to get a state passport. Now, that would be great if the states, like in Europe, if the states put up their own the worldwide travel documents. How great would that be? That would be so cool. It'd be like, I mean, you'd know someone was a citizen of Germany because, it takes away the power from the federal government for the states to be sovereign, which they are, and doing their own things in the world. You know, there is some limitations. The Constitution has empowered the federal government to do certain things in the world on behalf of the states. But again, what the federal government's doing in the world on not so on behalf of the states is dreadful, as you can see what's going on in the world right now. So it's you know, it's unfortunate things going on there, and you know, we can get into talking about that stuff, but you know, it's really got a bad vibe in that. Really, what we're glad to be doing here and even tonight is to be helping people eliminate their income tax liability. And if you're eliminating this federal income tax, you'll be also eliminating the state income tax because it's based in the federal in most states. Um, and we've done these processes, and I think most all the states, you know, maybe there's a state or two that I haven't, not that I can think of, but yeah, I think all 50 states. Um, but I haven't looked at, not all states have an income tax, and so you'd have to read the statute and codes that govern the states collecting of income tax. So that would be a that'd be a good thing to look up in your own state and to figure out, you know, what is, you know, what it's based in. Then you can determine whether you want to participate or not. And the thing about it is that there's so much of this power you're giving away that you're submitting documents, even though you've never read the tax code, as true, correct, and complete. You don't know. You're just trusting it. And really, the IRS is going to be the ones that really tell you whether it's true, correct, or complete. And yet, they want people to sign under penalty of perjury. How crazy is that? So, yeah. So, do you? You think, I don't know. I mean, let's see. I guess we're up to 12. I guess we're growing because California's coming on. It's early out there in California. People are finishing up their dinner. Oh, you're out there sewing. That's good. Oh, that's cool. Well, yeah. So I'm glad to be here. Hey, here's another question or statement here. You heard me say, it says, I heard you say in the previous video, one lady you represented, you had the, see, why is there this heart in the way? I can't read the whole, oh, there you go. Yeah, but see, even that's not showing me the whole phrase here. I heard you say the previous video, the lady you represented had the FOIA request for her docs from State Department, so they admissible in court, wondering if I need a FOIA explanatory statement. Yeah, it's a good word. Yeah, we do that. And the reason that we do get the FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act request, is because years ago, I think it was in 2004, something like that, or six, I don't remember. The Browns trial, that Ed and Lane Brown's IRS standoff trial that they had. I was in court when the IRS prosecutor was showing their passport application. He wasn't showing their passports. It was the application that she had signed, Elaine, she was on the stand at the time, on, and it was up on the screen, and she was saying she was, I mean, she signed off that she was a U.S. citizen, and she was claiming not to be a U.S. citizen. And so the IRS prosecutor said, and I quote, this is about what he said. He said, let me see if I understand. When traveling abroad, you are a U.S. citizen, but when it comes to paying taxes, you're not. Is that the case? And she said, I didn't know if there was another way to fill out the passport application. And I was thinking at that time, I was so glad that I had done my passport. That was in 2001 in Boston at the passport agency. I did it as a state citizen, not as a federal 14th Amendment citizen. And I needed it to be congruent with the letters and the things I was writing to IRS, because I was telling IRS I wasn't a U.S. citizen or a resident alien. So that's so when I saw that, I was talking to the people on the break, Elaine and all of our friends and people that were supporting the Browns. They they were noticing, and I told them that I had done my passport as a state citizen. They wanted to do the passport process so they could do it as a state citizen as well. And that was about the time I began helping people with those processes with the State Department. And the State Department, let me tell you, has hammered our process in a huge way. I mean, I have letters that we use from the State Department telling us that if you don't agree with the wording of the oath on the application, you can present an explanatory statement to, to share your position. That's what the State Department said to do, and that's what we do, and that's why we do it. And so, and again, we've done thousands of these, over the years. And listen, not one of our clients that have done these processes is having trouble with IRS. So, and I'm thankful for that. And I guess one of the reasons is, at least I'm making this up about it, is because we agree with the IRS. They're pursuing U.S. citizens and resident aliens. Just determine that, you know, that you want, whether you're a federal citizen or even a resident alien. Are you residing in the District of Columbia? Freddie quotes, so you're asking about your own stuff. If you've done your passport in a certain way and you submitted those documents, well then yeah, I would highly recommend you can do a certified copy where it'll be assigned by the Secretary of the United States. That'd be Mark Rubio. And so he'll literally wedding signature the certification, and then you can use those documents in court if you were having trouble with IRS and you were, running down the road towards court. So if that's served you, then I would definitely get certified copies of your file, your passport file. You'll have to let them know specifically what you're looking for in your request. So, all right, it's another one. Says James Lovett has really good explanatory statement. I can't believe that I can't see this bottom one because I have this heart here. Yeah, see, I wish I would get out of the way, but I can't. That's because it's on my phone. All right. So a guy named James Lovett. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I've heard of James Lovett, but I'm not familiar with his work, so I can't comment on. I'm sure how good it is for you, but maybe I'll have an opportunity. Did you make photocopies of everything you submitted to the State Department for your own record? The nice thing about having certified documents is that'll be in your record too. That'll be really cool. So, all right, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna have like the longevity to go to midnight. I'm looking at where, you know, I mean, to chit chat. I mean, if there's like conversations, you could be coming from, you can open up a lot of different conversations. But which, yeah, well, no, one of the things that you talk about guests, I think that that's a great idea. And so in our last email to our clients and such is, I think that's a great idea that we should have guests at least once a month, have a featured guest that'll talk about this experience as well as, how they look at things. And all. We've had guests and it's pretty well received. So definitely going to pursue that for some of the people that are happy about it. So that'll be cool. Yeah, well, you can definitely look forward to that. And again, you could go to destinationfreedom.org and you can take a look at our foundational class, our state versus federal citizenship class. Yeah, so that'll be cool. So what else? Because I don't really want to talk about all the political stuff. I don't really, unless if people were asking me, I guess I would talk about some of that stuff. Everything was copied, and surprisingly, they sent it back. Yeah, if they sent back your explanatory statement, it's not in the record. So, yeah, that's unfortunate. That's a big deal. Um, and we've seen that before where those documents have come back. When our clients, they send back the documents, we mail it right back and say, this has to remain in the record in order for that record to be valid. Let me tell you another thing that we do. At the top of the explanatory statement, we put in red letters that says this 10-page explanatory statement is to remain in this record, and attached to the file in order for it to be true and correct under penalty of perjury. That's at the top in red. And even on the application, we have underneath the signature, it says not this, not valid without explanatory statement attached. And we've put all over that at the top and the bottom. See explanatory statement, see explanatory statement. So, and listen, then they still will sometimes it'll show up. Sometimes they throw away or lose an explanatory statement, or it'll partly show up. The State Department is the government. They're not so good. So I think we have less than a handful of people like that over all these years. So that's not so bad, but we still feel we have to remedy. When it comes around in 10 years, we're just going to have them renew their passport and we'll put in a new explanatory statement and that'll probably go through really well. Um, so that's one of the remedies is to do the process again, but we don't always recommend that. So that's sad. Because I'm pretty confident that whatever you explanatory statement you made that came back, it's not in the record. When you do a FOIA request, you'll see that. Now, FOIA request certified is $50. So if you don't want to pay that and you want to find out what's in the record, you can do a FOIA request that's not certified, and then they'll just send you photocopies of what's in the file. Then you'll know. Then you can pay for the certification once you know the record is intact or complete. So it's disappointing for that, I'm sure. So yeah, so we're gonna come down to flaming shot. What is that? Let me see. Oh wait, where's that? Wait, let me just see if let me see. I think I'm getting comments in maybe uh why is the FOIA so important in process? Good, that's a good question. Talk about the fear people have of the IRS. Talk about the flaming. What? I don't know what she means by that. The flaming shots. Um, yeah. So the idea of the FOIA is, like I said about, and maybe you asked that earlier when I mentioned it, but is um, so many times people are looking for documentation and. And so having that record signed by the Secretary of the United States is what you can hold in your hands to show that you're rejecting that 14th Amendment citizen and you're embracing the citizenship of your state, which is habitation and domicile. So that's why people want that. And listen, when that comes, it's riveted and sometimes, not always, it may have ribbons in it, red ribbons, and they emboss something over the top of the ribbons. It's really quite extraordinary. It's quite a process to prepare those kind of documents for court, but that's why they do them. And um, that says here is there something? So it says everything was completely sent it back. So if that happens, then you can't do it again. Well, you always can do your passport process over again, and for those reasons, you can pay another like $200 for doing the passport process if you're doing the passport book and card. I think it's like 160 for the passport and 35 or something for the card. It says, so is there something I can send in response to the IRS asking me to file? And again, it's not appropriate for me to be directing you to how to communicate with the IRS. If you're a federal citizen, okay, and I get what you're saying to me, I do, but but I have no way of determining what you accomplished is accomplished or whether that is so. If I were to tell you to file or not to file or how to respond to them, I'd be remiss. It'd be foolish for me to advise you in a sense without any kind of a relationship or with having more specific information about your situation and what you're doing. So anyway, so I can't I can if you were a client, I could say what you could do and we answer those responses all the time. When they come along, people asking for them. Um, then it says your state citizenship by certifying um, by certifying, let's see, your birth certificate in the city. Now we don't, I'm not into the straw man, any of the straw man stuff. I do not believe that the birth certificate is, let me say that even if their birth certificate was monetized, which I have no evidence to support that, and just going to a website that's been created for whatever reason is hardly baseless to prove anything. But I've been to the state getting my son's birth certificate, and I said, let me take a look at it. I want to look at the backside because they wouldn't let you have the actual one that's in the record. You get a certified copy. And so what happens is there's three numbers that are on when you get a birth certificate. And so some people will say, oh, that's the monetized number and all that. That's not what the state of New Hampshire said. And I was talking to the guy. He says the first number on there is representing the actual document that you filled out. And I recognize, my ex-wife's signature and mine on there for when we filled it out. Okay, so the number represents that document. Then the second number represents where it is in the book, and in where its position is in whatever book that it's entered in. And usually, when babies are born, and they're kind of in chronological order. So that's the second number. The third number is the actual certificate that you get identifying that record. And in New Hampshire, they literally photocopies on some level the actual document onto the paper, and it's fancy bonded paper, of course, because it's got to be official. Because having a birth certificate in America has value, financial value. What do I mean? You can get on welfare, you can get a passport. There's a lot of things you can get when you have a birth certificate. And so that's why they're not handing them out like candy. There you have to have a record and all that stuff. So there's that. But I asked to look at the back side of it to see if there was any writing on it. Nothing. And I asked him, I said, are these birth certificates monetized? I asked him that. He said, if you want to understand what is about this birth certificate, you just read the statute and they'll tell you what it's for and all that stuff. He says, I've never seen anything like that on anything with birth certificates. And I was looking at him, I said, people that I hang out with, and so they're going to think you're lying. He's like, I can't tell you anything but what I know or or the truth. He says, so people are going to believe whatever they want to believe. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But I appreciate that. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. And here's the thing is, just because I'm saying that a baby has no obligation, there's nothing to correct. Okay. First of all, parents cannot sell their kids or give away their kids into slavery or whatever. It's illegal. Certainly is immoral. And it's a hell of a charge to charge your parents that they sold you into slavery. I've heard those kind of things. That's not honoring your parents. And no parent's going to do that. No, it's a birth certificate. It's a record of the birth. That's the idea. Now, whether the state monetizes it or not, most states are in debt. So how they do with the monetization stuff, that's funky. And listen, just because I'm saying that the child has no obligation or anything to correct doesn't mean that states aren't funky, that they have weird bonds and they do weird banking things and all that. That's all over the world. That's because banking systems are corrupt. Here's another concept that's out there. What backs the money, the Federal Reserve notes in America, is the full faith and credit of the United States government. Well, how's the United States government's credit? They're trillions of dollars in debt. They don't have a high credit rating. Really? How bad do you have to be a high credit? And when you really want to talk about the full faith and credit of what the federal government could do, how's it going to pay off its debt unless it taxes people? So how's that for the basis? Well, they could say that, oh, if you have a birth certificate, you owe the debt. The hell with that. I never signed off on any of their stupid debt. Let those bastards that voted for it, let them pay the debt off. They're the whores after the central bankers. Let them do that stuff. It's not the people's debt. Nobody wants to have a debt ceiling keep raising. You try to be financially like the United States Congress is doing. See if you'd stay solvent. And then there's bankruptcy. Someone was saying, well, the federal government's bankrupt. Well, no one's told them they keep borrowing money, hardly bankrupt. Take a look at it. We're waiting for the bankruptcy to occur. But but here's the thing about it is it's such an immoral system that the banking system allows people to default on their promises, and they call it filing for bankruptcy so that you can be free of these debt obligations. Well, amazing that the federal government can be as immoral as they are about money, and then they say, well, you too can be immoral about it. So it's astonishing that that's the way it is. And so for our clients, we do a debt discharge service as well. So we'll help you eliminate your federal income tax, eliminate your unsecured debt. And so it's amazing. And we do that based upon the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. We don't do any A for V or any sort of acceptance for value, which is what A for V is. And we also again, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And we do what the government does, which is, we ask them, where did you get the funds that you're saying you lent? Because they didn't get them anywhere. They just created credit. And where's that? Out of thin air. And they're wanting to say you owe them what they created out of thin air. So they're not out anything because they didn't bring anything to the table. But we have some questions that they can answer and they never do. And so we discharge it, and that's how quick or easy that is. But we do that only for our clients. So let me see some other some of the questions here on YouTube. Is there let's see here. Levitz knows the blah blah blah. Bad Wolf. Yep, great guy. That's cool. Then it says, you process your state citizenship by certifying your birth certificate. No, I don't do that. We do mention in the process about our nationality. And I was born in Philadelphia, so I'm a Pennsylvanian by birth. That's my nationality. And we have documents from the government that talk about when referring to the natives under the topic of nationality, when referring to the natives of the states, the following forms were used. So if you're born in a particular state, like if you're born in New York State, you're a New Yorker. That's your nationality. If you're born in Italy, you're Italian. If you're born in California, you're a Californian. But don't confuse that with citizenship. I'm a citizen of New Hampshire by choice. I didn't choose to have my nationality be Pennsylvanian. That's what your parents did. So that's nationality and citizenship. They're not the same thing. Some people erroneously want to make like their nationality is their citizenship. That's just false. And it says, do I file a 1040 or claim for exemptions? Are you? Oh, they're having conversations with each other on there. Class. Yeah, it looks like it's this live sounds is asking Freddie, does he file a 1040?
They'll say the other person's name.
Huh?
They'll say the person they're talking to's name first.
Right, that's what it says on there, at Freddie. Yeah, so that's how. Yeah, I can tell it now. I get that. So here I thought I was. I have a long way to learn these things. I don't do this kind of things on my phone. I do my finger. And I use punctuation. Remember that? So anyway, I'm older than that, but anyway, but that's good. So that's good. Oh, someone was talking about a bot. It says not a bot, just looking for good from people. That's good. Anyway, so that's cool. Yeah, talk amongst yourselves. uh, but yeah, so it's an exciting process, and again, it's not a nail biting thing or anything like that. I think it's going to be good. So listen, I think what we're going to do is I think we're going to call it a night because I don't think we're going to stretch this on. Listen, we're on every week. You can come in on our live Q&A, which is you can go to destinationfreedom.org, scroll down. There's a link on the left that that will invite you. You know, you can click on it and come to our live calls if you want to ask questions and do things. And again, that's destinationfreedom.org. If you want to talk with me in some capacity, if I have availability, and you're looking to do our process, but you have some questions, that's okay. Just reach out to us and give us their contact information at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org. We'll be glad to hook up and talk with you, and we can be more specific. I think Freddie Quotes has been very gracious in asking questions and giving forth information that's really, very private stuff. So, but thanks for being a part of this call and for this particular broadcast. And I'm glad you're on. It's an exciting process. I'm Christopher Gronsky, and this is Destination Freedom. Be sure to, if you wouldn't mind, subscribing so that you can get notifications for our videos that come out or when we're going to go live. And if this video is okay, please like and share it. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Okay,